Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome to another episode of A Feast of Films Theatre with your hosts, Matthew Ayalew and Ethan R. Hill. How's that? That was good?
Oh, yeah. Classic. Classic.
Alright, here we go again, fellow movie fans. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, baby?
Oh my god.
What's going on? Welcome to the show. Feast of Films, baby. All right.
Yeah, this is what we're gonna talk about.
We'll be right
Show,
back
oh my
with your
gosh.
best episode of Feast of Films. Whoa.
Man, I really like Star Wars. I thought it was a good movie. I think it's good. 10 out of 10. Let's watch it again. All right, yeah.
10 out of 10, baby.
Like,
Let's do it.
imagine,
I love it.
could you
It wasn't
imagine
even
if that
10
was
out
the
of 10.
entire-
It's 12 out of 11, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, man, rockin'.
It's so good. It's so good. We don't even do out of 10. We do out of 11, and this one got a 12, baby. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, 12, yeah.
There's some good stuff right here. Let me tell you that. Yeah.
I would not have a voice if we did that for the entirety.
Oh
of
my
the
god,
show.
man. I would
Like,
just die.
I would absolutely just like it would just be like I think tomorrow.
All
I'd wake up
right.
I would sound like I've been smoking cigarettes for the last 20. I don't know. I can't think of anything because of the amount of cigarettes that I've smoked.
It has affected my brain, the lack of oxygenated gases.
Man, can you tell that I haven't done much in my life? Can you tell that I've just basically been living for the last 20 years, 30 years? Oh my goodness. I'm a mess apparently.
You're like, I've been living for the last 20 years. I mean, plus 10.
I didn't live for the first 10 years or the last 10 or maybe that middle 10.
Well, that first
from like
10,
from
yeah,
like
that
10
middle-
to 20 I didn't really do anything.
That feels like
I
for
went to
me.
school.
Yeah. I'm only 20, like plus 10, but like those middle 10 years, I completely forget about. Nah, the hell, man.
Man, again, I just
Nothing useful.
25
Nothing
all the
useful
time.
happened there. No.
I just pretend I'm a lot younger than I am. I don't have anything going for me really. I don't have any like proof that I'm older, that I'm 30. There's like my ID, but that's about it.
You're like, I'm going for 20, unless I'm going to Vegas. Then I'm 21.
I mean, like that's why I say 25. I can still rent a car.
Could you lie about your age if you're older? Wouldn't that be funny?
Like,
you
you'd
know how
think
like
so. Like, I'd be
18-year-olds,
able to
you
get
know,
it.
like 18-year-olds like, yeah, no, we're 21. And you just be like, yeah, no, I'm 21. They're like, sir, you were like 30. Like, nah, I'm 21. I'm pretty sure.
No, like because I mean,
Can I get
again,
this
that's
car?
where
I'm 21. I'm pretty sure.
you gotta go with a believable age. You can't go like too far. Like I couldn't say that I'm 20, but I think if I said I'm anywhere between like 23 to 28, that would be like the safe zone.
Sure, yeah.
I could pass for that.
Sure.
But I think if I went too young, then it would be like, no, buddy, you're making that up. And I think like that's the thing is I think at this point I could lie about being older.
You could
Like,
probably.
I think I could say that I'm like 35 and someone would believe me, but I think there'd still be like some raised eyebrows.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, though. You shave, and it's a totally different story, right? Like, that's the thing, man. That's the thing. I think if you shave, men can usually get, like, a good solid 5 years off, at least, if not more. Like, when I shave, man, I look like I'm, like, fucking 18 again. Just with, like, tired eyes. Just my eyes are tired. My eyes give me away. Like, oh, it looks like you're tired, though.
See, and for me, with the hair where I'm at, if I clean shave, I just look like my sister. Like that's actually like the running joke in my family is that I look exactly like you met Kareen.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
look exactly like her. And like there's been so many times. There's actually like Mason and the gang were driving apparently and like shouted at Kareen thinking she was me. So she was really upset when she got home. She's like, "Your friends thought I was you." And then
That's so funny.
Another time, I was doing dishes in the house, and my back was facing the front door, and Kareen's friend came over, and was like, "Oh, I'm just here to see if Kareen's here. Oh, there she is in the kitchen." And I just turned around and I'm like, "Don't let the hair fool you." And she was very embarrassed, and Kareen was again very upset. I don't get upset by this.
It doesn't
because
bug you at all, eh?
Well, like at the end of the day, it's like, "Oh, you look like a girl. Thanks." I guess, like,
Cool,
am
chicks
I
are hot.
Am I pretty? Like, as long as I'm pretty, that's the important thing.
Do you think I'm pretty?
Exactly. It's that, what is it? There's that SpongeBob SquarePants episode where like there's the freaking hat. It's about it. Like, do you watch much SpongeBob? Did you?
Not as
growing up
much.
at all?
I did, yeah, like when I was younger, but I haven't like seen it. If it's newer, I haven't seen it.
This one lies in that weird awkward middle place, but it's like SpongeBob gets like a hat from Mr. Krabs for $1, and it's like one of those like got drinks on the side of the head, and has a straw that goes to the mouth.
Oh,
and then
yeah,
Mr.
I think
Krabs
I've seen
finds
that
out
one.
Mr. Krabs finds out like it might be worth millions, and he tries to get it back from SpongeBob, and SpongeBob's like, I don't want to give it back, and all that kind of stuff. And at one point he's like, I didn't want to say this in front of Patrick, but that hat makes you look like a girl. And then SpongeBob's response is like, am I a pretty girl? And that's become my like default response.
Yeah.
Anytime someone's like tried to use that as an insult to me, is like, well, dude, you look like a girl. And it's like, am I pretty? Because like,
Am I a pretty girl?
like at the end of the day, like that stuff doesn't bug me. Like it's never has. Like masculinity has never been a thing that's really,
You're comfortable and secure with who you are.
well, like, and
That's
it's
more than
it's
can be
weird 'cause,
said
like,
for most guys.
here's the thing. It's weird because like I'm as a person I'm not, but like masculinity wise I am.
Yeah.
And like knowing me from high school, like was there ever a point in high school where I came off as like, yeah, no, I gotta be as manly and tough as possible? Or I've always
Oh,
just
definitely
been like, yeah,
not. Definitely not.
I'm me.
You're just
I mean,
like,
going to theater really helps.
I'm Ethan. I like theater.
Yeah, like-
theater.
Sure, put me in tights. I don't care. I got the legs for it. Like it was never really.
Well, yeah, once you're putting on eyeliner for musicals and shit, it's like, okay, whatever, man. It's
Right.
over now. I was never good at it, though. I always had to get someone to help me because I always, like, poke myself in
Oh,
the
dude,
freaking
yeah.
eye. I was like, Jesus, how do you guys do this?
No, I never told you this. So I actually never had to have eyeliner or I think I had lipstick for one show.
Yeah.
But I never had to have eyeliner because my eyes are so dark naturally. I'm assuming from being tired all the time. That like during the time in Aladdin, Mulan, all that stuff, they never put eyeliner on me.
I think I got eyeliner,
They were
but I
like-
never got, like, foundation to make me, obviously, darker, right? Like, I was okay being brown. They're like, you're good. I was like, okay, cool.
No, I got like the most I really had was like foundation to like make me not shiny. And then like maybe a bit of eye makeup,
Yeah.
a little bit, and then like whatever wrinkles because I was always the old man, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I had to like draw on the wrinkles and stuff.
They're just like, you are old man material.
That was my shtick for 2 years of school was just being the old man.
Oh, high school, eh? Just
I don't miss it that
typecast.
much. So I guess we should actually like talk to our podcasters. Hi guys, hi fellow movie fans. Welcome to another episode of A Feast of Films. I hope you enjoyed that intro.
Just the intro. Like, yeah, man.
That was fun. I think we should keep that because that was a good time. And I'm content starting the show here. I'm content with starting it right now.
Eyelashes like a motherfucker.
Like seriously, like honestly, almost any woman I've encountered has been like, man, your eyelashes, like the guy's eyelashes for some reason are.
Well, it's because we don't do anything to them.
I guess, yeah.
It's like it is like what's the word? It's like one of the world's greatest ironies, right? Like, because women do all these things to make their eyelashes beautiful and like full. Men do dick and get the best results. It's just
So what
it's
what it is, man, is it's years of sexism getting women to put on makeup for us that has made men's eyelids.
Dude, that's pretty
beautiful.
much it, man. Men are
Eyelids, they're
we're terrible.
eyelashes.
Society
I mean,
has
like-
been terrible. It's still.
I mean, we all know that. We've accepted that a while ago.
oh man.
Yeah, no, here we are, another episode of A Feast of Films. Here to talk about Star Wars, and actually like a positive conversation before we get into terrible conversations like 10 episodes later. No, 5 and 10. Yeah, 5 and 10 episodes later. I'm excited to talk about Force Awakens.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the, obviously, when I say one of them, I mean it completely is and stands on its own in this trilogy as the only one that I'm feeling 100% confident of, that I feel like this is a solid Star Wars movie.
It feels like
Star Wars. This is a solid Star Wars film. Even if it didn't rely on the old trilogy and have that same kind of feel, like even if it didn't do those things, I just feel like narratively where they put everything together, this would be a solid Star Wars flick. No doubt.
Well, like, like I want to get into it. Like I have a few other things to talk about before we get into it and stuff like that. But honestly, just to start off, like I was thinking about it, and really, this is you could easily, and it's kind of what it was designed for. You could easily use this film to show someone who's never seen Star Wars before Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's a great entry point.
Yeah.
Which again is why for the young generation that it came out for, it's perfect. It's 100% perfect. But even if I was to show an adult, like if I knew someone who didn't care for like older movies, and of course I don't know if I'd want to start with the prequels myself. If I want to show someone Star Wars but show them something new, I would either show them The Mandalorian or I'd show them Force Awakens, because you don't need all the background to understand either of those shows, and it's a good entryway. It's a good like, oh, so this is the world? That's kind of weird, but all right. It kind of explains things, and it does a good job at world building.
Yeah, it is a really great entry point into it. I think, yeah, probably show, like, I don't know, I like the Mandalorian. I think Mandalorian's easy for like a lot of people who aren't, like, it depends what their interests are, right? Like, if they already kind of like sci-fi and they're into that kind of thing, sure. Force Awakens, 100%, man. Drop them in there. But if they're like, ugh, I don't really like nerdy stuff or whatever, like, if they're those type, then it's like, show them The Mandalorian. Because Baby Yoda always wins everybody over. Even people who did not like Star Wars or even watch Star Wars still watched The Mandalorian, right? Like, because it's not full on. It eases you into the universe and everything going on in it, so... Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
Which is, it's funny because like A New Hope does the exact opposite and just like yeets you right into.
Oh yeah,
it's like
what is the Clone
hey,
Wars?
Hey, you want to watch a movie that's gonna make no sense, but for some reason is gonna work better than every other sci-fi and fantasy out there right now? Here's Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's old as hell. Here you go. But that's a testament to its storytelling. 100%. Like, because at the end of the day, solid storytelling, great acting, great character work. That stuff is what transcends time, right? Like the special effects, even though they get updated, it's like they were really cool for the 70s. But again, if you showed some of them today, they'd be like, the hell am I looking at, man? You know, especially the younger ones who were like really into like the best looking graphics and like the CGI and stuff, right?
But that's the cool thing is like the ships look amazing, like always. The ships always, like except for the CG ones that they update, the classic ships.
They look solid. They look realistic. But I just like to people who are, I'm saying like young people who are really into CGI. I don't think they're gonna find them as impressive. That's all I'm saying.
And they'd be wrong. They'd
But
be wrong. And
the storytelling though, man, transcends time and space and reaches into the hearts and souls of all people. Open your heart and let Star Wars in. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen?
Matt, we're not here to convert people. We're here to
Oh, I'm here to convert all y'all. All y'all.
Why are we trying to convert them on Force
Church
Awakens?
Of Star Wars. Because Force Awakens is a great entry point.
Yes, it's a great entry point, but it's a great entry point for disappointment. It's basically going to be like, hey...
See, now you're countering your own point, because you're like, this was a great entry point. Then you're like,
it is, and that's what makes me so mad!
No, you start with Force Awakens, and you go backwards.
Yeah, no, straight up, it's like, oh, that was good.
Here's Force
Nothing
Awakens,
happened
here's the
after
universe.
it.
Don't worry about anything after that. Let's go back to A New Hope. There you go.
Let's only watch episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's all I need. That's it. That's it. I can ignore the rest. It's actually funny. Like I bought the 4Ks and I got episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
And then I had 9 because I got 9 when it first came out.
Honestly,
that's basically it.
Honestly, if there were Star Wars movies that I could live without, it would definitely be 2. I could easily live without 2. Like just forget 2. Who cares, man? Who cares?
Right?
We don't need that. Even when we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast, episode 2, we're just like, watching this was just the biggest waste of time. Like it was just
again,
like
1.5 speed. I watched it at 1.5 speed and it was still terrible.
It was like, still, this movie's too damn long. And then you get rid of 8, you get rid of 9. You literally watch. I could watch 1. I liked 1. 1 did have some weird things, but it did have some equally really great things. I would watch 3 because it's the fall to the dark side with Darth Vader. But then obviously you're gonna be keeping 4, 5, 6. Like even if you just had 4, 5, 6 and never had another Star Wars movie, you're golden. you're golden.
That's exactly-
you
and
win,
that's the one thing-
right? Like that's the
that's the
thing.
thing that-
you win.
At the end of the day, and it's funny saying this because again, we're gonna make episodes of us complaining about Star Wars stuff. I know we are because it's us. Of course,
That's
we are.
all we do.
But honestly, I could happily ignore everything else and just watch 4, 5, and 6 and never complain again.
That's what I mean.
Like,
right? Because like the story,
I could, but
it
where's
is
the entertainment
lightning
value?
in a bottle, right? It is
100%.
lightning in a bottle, and they've never been able to capture it, and no one's been ever really able to make a trilogy of the same quality. Like it's just,
one,
it was just.
Lord of the Rings is the only close.
Yeah,
second.
exactly. I think we even talked about that last time because I'm pretty sure I've said that before. And then you're like, Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. That is really, really good.
One, it's again, it's
But
the
those
problem
things are
nowadays.
just like those things are lightning in a bottle though. Like they're just such rare occasions that everything works so perfectly and so well.
Do you think it's because they weren't necessarily trying to be a franchise? Like they were like they weren't trying super hard. Whereas now it's like everyone's trying to crack the formula. Of
Oh,
what a franchise
100%,
is.
man. 100%. Not even the franchise, but everyone's trying to do like the shared universe thing, right? Or at least they have.
Yeah.
It's slowed down now because
The
most of them have
multiverse,
failed.
the cross
Like,
universes.
You know what I mean? Most of them have failed, so a lot of them have slowed down. But
Well, now and again, DC and
Yeah.
Marvel are racing to the multiverses now, and it's like, guys, calm down and just focus on making some good films. Like,
Did you,
make a good movie first.
did you? I'll deviate a little bit from Star Wars here for a quick sec. But have you seen Black Widow? Did you
Not
watch
yet,
that? Okay,
No,
we watched it on.
we finished Loki, but I refuse to pay the premium price for the Disney movies.
So
I'll wait till
okay,
they-
yeah, and that's exactly where I was sitting for a long time. Like I hated this premium access thing. It's like I'm already paying you money now. I gotta pay you more money to watch the goddamn movie. And it's like, frustrated me. But then we are kind of having like this good family day, and we are doing a lot of fun stuff. Like we went out swimming, and we are just having like one of those great days. Picked up some burgers for the way home, and we're just like, enjoying life. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, Jordan, do you want to watch Black Widow? Because I wanted to take her, but I never got the chance through the week. So I was like, do you want to watch it? She's like, yeah, okay. I was like, okay, I'm fine. I'll put the $30 down or whatever and get this thing. No problem. And then I watched it and I was like, you know what? I'm glad I paid $30 for it and not like a night for 3 or 4 at the
a
movies,
theater.
man. Like at the theaters. Because I tell you, this is a film that, like from my perspective, it's okay.
Should've come out 10 years ago?
Well, it should have come out like it's like it almost feels like a phase 1 movie, but worse. Like it's honestly, it might be the worst MCU film.
That's what I've heard.
Like
I've heard
might
worse
be
than
the
Thor: Dark
worst.
World.
And mainly for the fact that not only did I find like there's a couple characters in there that like stole the show that are golden, but so much around like even Black Widow herself, Scarlett Johansson, it's like, were you sleeping through this movie? Because it was like the same tone, the same look, like there was no dynamic at all. Like it was just so uninteresting to watch. And they're trying to do like the Jason Bourne thing, but they never built up to any like tension. Like, how in Jason Bourne, like, for example, before like some assassins show up, like he notices like weird little things that are off. Like they build up that tension, then it's like boom, something happens. This was like things are happening, and then it's like they're just having a conversation. It's like boom, shit's happening. Like what is going on? Like things just
now more's happening.
things
now
were just
more's
like
happening.
what is happening? Like, and you're just trying to follow this film half the time, and like a lot of the acting and like just the narrative itself wasn't that great. But the biggest problem is it doesn't really add anything to the MCU, minus a new character who's really solid going forward, right? But it's not like, at least with Thor: The Dark World, there was an Infinity Stone in that movie, right?
Yeah,
so there
added
is
to the
at
plot.
least there is something there, and it's like this one, it's like there is like nothing. So like while it wasn't like absolutely horrible and it did have some pretty good moments, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of inconsistencies. And I just I thought it was so weird. Like even the editing and how they paced things. Like there's this one scene where 2 characters, like, and I'll stop talking about this because we're talking about Star Wars in a sec, but I just wanted to talk about this quick. There's like this scene where like 2 characters, like ones, they got their fists up and stuff, like they're ready to fight, right? And usually in that you either go immediately into the fight and then cut off at that point, or like and switch to something because there's multiple things happening at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Or you jump to one other thing and then you jump right back into the fight. Like you keep that fight momentum going, right?
Yeah.
This was like they're getting ready to fight. They cut to another scene. They cut to another scene. They cut to a third scene, and then you cut back to them, and they're like in the middle of the fight, and you're like, I totally forgot this fight was happening. I totally, it was just like, what weird editing. And it totally, that part, that moment, you felt the momentum, and then it was just dead. Like, they just cut off the momentum. But
And again, that's where I've just I haven't felt the compulsion to watch it. I haven't felt the reason to reach it.
I think
there are other movies I'd rather watch.
Yeah.
And I'm open to watching it. I'm like, if someone wanted to watch it with me, if someone sat me down and was like, "Yo, let's rent this and let's watch this," I'd be down 100%. I would watch it.
Yeah.
I'm just not actively gonna seek it out myself.
For sure.
And
we did watch it because we were trying to do a family thing. And
yeah, so
it was a good reason. And I'm glad. I was actually glad I spent the money for the premiere access instead of going to the theaters, because that's just more expensive, right? This is definitely a film.
To buy 4 tickets.
Yeah, exactly, right? So this is a film where you can wait till it comes out on Disney Plus, without the premiere, which I think is October sometime. And you're just not gonna miss a whole lot. You know what I mean? I did that with. It's disappointing because I felt like, even with the delays that this movie had, obviously coming out, because it was
build-up and the hype.
It was supposed to come out just as the pandemic was starting, right?
Yeah.
It's how did we not have enough time to look and be like, wow, here's some serious problems with this film that maybe we felt rushed and we couldn't fix? I felt like just no one has touched this thing since they're it's done. You know, I'm like, man, I don't know.
That's kind of how they treated Black Widow as a character, though. That was honestly one of my biggest complaints about her throughout the MCU. Is they kept sidelining her, and they kept trying to be like, oh, but guys, she's important, but then they would just treat her like she wasn't, and it always bugged me.
And she was,
she should have got her first. She should have got her own film.
She was a solid side character, but just from what I seen in this movie, they did not give her anywhere, and the writing didn't help her at all. They just didn't give her enough charisma to carry her film. You know what I mean? It just and I don't know if it was just the performance or the acting or Scarlett Johansson's hey, my character's dead, I don't give a shit. It literally felt like she was almost sleeping through it. It was honestly the same look on her face half the time, the same tone. It was just everything was so the same. And that's kind of Black Widow too, and that was great because she was surrounded by a whole bunch of other charismatic characters that she didn't need to carry that kind of, carry the weight of the whole film, whatever she was in. But yeah, it was a little bit tougher.
Well, that's what I mean. That's where I've always felt like they've done her a disservice. They've never given her due, and that's kind of where I'm a little disappointed with it. But no, again, I'm open to watch it. I'm not gonna sit down on my own and watch it, though. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, well, I'm alone on a Friday night, let's pop in Black Widow and feel good about myself.
Yeah, you won't feel good about yourself. You'll be like, oh man.
No, I have so many other movies to watch or rewatch. Literally, I got so much more to pick from. But
anyway,
that's kind of
that was a side tangent. Sorry guys.
Hey,
we're talking about Star Wars. I was like, have you seen this Marvel thing? But the end of Loki was okay. The end of Loki was okay.
Man, do we want to quickly spiral off into Loki? Because I kind of, man,
okay, guys, listen, we're gonna take a quick Marvel break. Then we'll be. We got it. It's all Disney related, guys. Come on, this episode's just been all over the damn place.
We set up the expectations for ourselves last episode. We got to pay off now.
Yeah, there you go.
We're
there you go.
Honestly, for me, the ending didn't change much of how I felt about the series.
Agreed.
I am intrigued with where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Kang. I mean, or He Who
Remains.
Yeah. He was amazing. He's great, but I've been watching Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
And he's in that. He's amazing in that too. And apparently they canceled the second season, which just makes me grumpy. But he's good in that. He's a good actor, and he sold it. He stole the episode. It didn't 100%. Feel like the season finale. It definitely didn't. It felt like a mid-season break.
Yep.
Or build up to the final episode. And people on the internet are like, oh man, it's a twist ending. It's a twist ending. And I'm like, do you guys not know what a twist ending is? Because what happened is exactly what he said was going to happen.
Yeah, it's not a twist. A twist. Guys, this is exactly what's going to happen.
No.
It happens. What a twist!
oh my gosh, are they all M. Night Shyamalan now? Is that what it is? Where it's
Yeah.
like no. So it just again, it didn't. Again, it didn't do anything for me that I didn't really see before. I'm still really I'm not on board with the whole Sylvie Loki relationship. That's still
No,
weird.
that's still, yeah, I agree.
And like it at the end of the day, like it was just setting up more multiverse stuff for other shows. I'm intrigued. Like that's the thing, and that's where I'm frustrated cuz like I was not it's probably one of the stronger episodes throughout the series,
I think it was
but it was
probably
too little
honestly
too late.
the strongest. Yeah. Like I would say it was probably the strongest as far as like character acting and universe building and what they were doing. I was like, yeah, this is definitely the strongest episode. But you're right, for it to come in at the end is just like, man, like it doesn't, because it doesn't change anything that happened before, right? Like that's
Yeah.
still the Loki
And
series.
nothing that
And while
happened
it-
before really affected
Where they were
this
at.
episode.
No, exactly. Like it was just one of those things where, again, like you're right, the potential to come out of this on the second season and what it means for the bigger scale of the universe is interesting and intriguing, but it doesn't change how I felt about the season. The other thing I have, like how the whole multiverse thing works and the splitting timelines is still
Yep.
kind of confusing. It's not very clear.
Yep.
I didn't feel like they
Make-
communicated that clearly. And in the past, Marvel has done a great job of introducing crazy ideas into their fairly grounded universe, right? Like, because it started with Iron Man, and it's like, how the hell is Thor gonna fit in with this? But they did.
it
They
worked.
made it work. They made Captain America work. They make Avengers work. And the thing
Hulk.
that they've like, right? The thing that they've always done really well when they're introducing kind of like new elements into the MCU that are a little bit like out there or different or whatever, they base it around strong human stories. Like that's always been the key. So you're emotionally connected and you're understanding this as the character's journey through it. But like this whole series I felt was lacking any sort of emotional human story from beginning to end of this whole series. I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. Like I'm not buying this Loki Sylvie connection. Like I'm not buying. There is
Owen
to me
Wilson
there
was
is
the best part of the
yeah,
series.
exactly,
Wow.
right? Wow, I loved Owen Wilson
Wow.
in this series. But
Well,
I'm just
when he
saying from
comes
like
back-
I'm like saying from a storytelling point of view, this
Yeah.
whole series was based around the concept and the idea of the multiverse, but they never really made it like a real human experience. You know what I mean? Like there was just nothing
No,
to
and, like-
attach onto. It was just this crazy concept that they were introducing.
So like a couple.
That's what I
things with
felt
that.
anyway.
So like the first thing is Owen Wilson's performance when he first walks into the room of like the head lady.
Yeah.
When he says like when she's like I wasn't supposed to be disturbed, and then I think he's like, well, you're not gonna be happy about this or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Was the most Owen Wilson performance ever, and I loved it. Oh well, I'm coming into the room anyway.
Like too
Like-
bad.
So good. But
His character's
the thing
great.
with Marvel, the thing with Marvel, and I could be very wrong. I've been wrong before, and I gotta address that later in the episode. But I could be wrong. But I don't think that they ever really needed to explain the multiverse in Marvel comics, and that might be where the MCU is having its problem. The multiverse just always kind of existed.
Mhm.
Like there was just, oh yeah, it's a multiverse theory. It's a thing that is pretty well in
Yeah.
any kind of science journals. Just accept it. Multiverses exist, and we cross over. Like even Into the Spider-Verse didn't explain where the multiverse came from. They're just like, yeah, it's different dimensions.
And you
So, know,
got
it's
it, right?
multiverse.
Like
and you're like, yeah, cool.
and it was connected it
And
was
then-
connected to the story. Like it made sense, right? Like it was weaved into the whole core narrative of Miles' experience and like old busted ass Peter.
But they didn't need
busted
to sit
ass.
down and explain how the multiverse
Yeah, exactly.
existed.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the MCU. Even DC. Like, their multiverse has just existed, but anytime they've tried to explain that multiverse or, like, clean it up or fix it or anything, they've just made it worse.
You're just
Because at
making
the-
it more convoluted.
Well, exactly, because at the end of the day, does it matter how it's there? Or just like, yeah, like, so this is a thing. It's like, oh, well, parallel dimensions exist? Oh, okay. Oh, they're
Exactly,
converging? Oh, this is a danger. Like, and that's the problem, is they didn't have a plan, And that's where, again, to me, it goes back to Endgame, because they mentioned the multiverse in Doctor Strange. Then in Endgame, they're like, but the multiverse can't exist because sacred timeline. And then in this show, they're like, but multiverse. And it's like, guys, make up your mind. Does the MCU have a multiverse?
Or not.
Or
Because
not?
there is a crocodile Loki, and I'm pretty sure that's not on the timeline.
And that's the thing, is like, and now it is, and that's cool. But they didn't need to take all the time explaining the multiverse stuff. It worked with with who the actor was. The actor doing the explanation, that worked. That was a good monologue. That was cool with little figures and stuff. That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
But it was such a... It didn't matter in the... It didn't matter.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Like, it ultimately not only didn't matter kind of ultimately at the end of the day, but like I didn't feel any emotional connection to that, right? Like, it was might as well have been taken in university class. Because again, like, there was just no human element that mattered that this was happening. Like, it just...
If he would have
didn't really matter.
So I liked the actor. That actor, and I don't want to displace another actor with it, that actor should have been the intern at the beginning of the series. And should have popped up, you know, the guy who was like signing Loki in and like the paperweights and all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
That should have been the same actor. That should have been Jonathan Majors. And he was watching Loki the whole time. If that character was popping up through the whole time, and then the reveal is like, oh, he's also... He's the one who's been watching over us.
They also announced him already as Kang, like, and before the series
too,
because they announced who they cast as Kang already, and it was like, bruh. So as soon as he showed up, like, I knew who it was. Yeah, but I mean, like, but again, when you're looking at this whole thing, and it was great for us, but for the general movie going audience who's not into who doesn't understand the multiverse or Kang the Conqueror, doesn't know anything about him, like, at all, they're not gonna know who the hell this guy is. Like, they're just like, they're not gonna have that, like, oh dope man, it's Kang. Like, the majority of people who watch MCU stuff that don't know these things, I don't think they're gonna be like, okay, this guy came before and it's this thing, but they're not gonna have that same excitement level either.
And that's where, again, if they would have had him throughout the series, just kind of like being built up to the point where he actually reveals, like, oh no, this is who I am and this is why I'm a threat, probably would have been better than just having him show up at the end.
Yeah, like,
because you would have got connected to the character. You would have actually felt something.
And right? Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, man. Like, this whole series felt like, just like, again, it's like one of those connect the dots thing. It felt like a university class. Like, it didn't feel like there was actually any emotional reason why I should care. Right? Because it's the human journey. It's the connection we have to characters is ultimately why we care things are happening. Right? Like, it's the context of it. You think about, like, all the different elements the MCU added over the time, right? Like, you think of, again, Thor Asgard. Like, it was a very human story for Thor. Like, it wasn't this crazy, out-of-the-world, crazy story. Like, it was him about being, like, a dick and then having to learn and grow and develop. But he did that on Earth. Like, he smashes a coffee cup. Another! Like, you just love that kind of stuff.
That's where, like, Loki never really learned a lesson.
No, like, he didn't. He immediately caught up to where Loki left off at Endgame, pretty much. In, like, the first episode.
He didn't grow past that.
Yeah.
He didn't change past that. He's like, no, I'm Tom Hiddleston and I'm a good guy now.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the thing is, at the end of the day,
I want to see Loki effing with people, to be honest. I was hoping for that, but...
It really felt like this is Marvel's attempt at a Doctor Who show, but like a terrible Doctor Who show. Yeah. And like that's the other thing. They advertised it as a time travel show, and we got maybe 3 different instances of time travel.
Yeah. Like, and not for very long. It was just little bits and pieces here and there.
And it's like, okay, cool, but what about that show where it's like, oh, well, this is going to be Loki in this time period. This is Loki in this time period. Isn't this neat? And they're like, nah, it's a character arc where they're gonna spend 2 of the 6 episodes doing nothing.
They're like, nah, man, this is a show where the biggest question is, if you met yourself, would you bang yourself? That's the question of Loki. That is the
answer is apparently yes. Exactly. We have the answer too.
Exactly. That's so funny. But no, that's just what I thought.
Off his head?
What's that?
There's that one shot that bugs me where, like, she's charging to kill he who remains.
Yeah.
And then Loki teleports in front of her sword swing. And, like, the force that she was swinging with would have killed him because there's no way that she would have seen him that quickly and
And
stopped the
stop.
swing of her sword. But it
Yeah.
just stops, and I don't even think there's a cut on his neck. There's like nothing. It just stops, and it's like, no, like that doesn't. No, he would have been injured at some. Like that is. It was a cool moment, I guess, but like it makes no. Unless he suddenly still has those super strong powers, like he can flip buildings, apparently.
Yeah, that apparently, but he can also get thrown out of a bus or a train by like two regular dudes. I don't know. The whole show was like, the whole show for me was just like, again, university class. Like it was all about the logic of it. It wasn't like there was no emotionality behind it, no
Mm.
character story, no character journey behind it. And then the inconsistencies between not just their power levels and where like they should be and what they're dealing with, but also like their intelligence levels. I was like, and I talked about this last time too. Like I just felt their intelligence levels were very inconsistent throughout the whole
Well,
show.
again, I think we can agree the show at the end of the day was used as a device to build a universe as opposed to a device to bring a character through.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like you can
It's
clearly
it's
see the
similar.
difference between the first two series and this one, just by just how it
One,
feels.
it's similar. It's honestly similar to how I feel about Star Wars prequels. It's the idea of the journey is just to get Anakin to be Darth Vader. That's all it
Yeah,
is. This series was just to explain who or explain the multiverse and set up the new big bad for the next, which kind of, and that kind of bums me out too, because like to me, I'm looking forward to the big bad being revealed in Ant-Man Quantumania.
yeah.
That's what I want, because why is Kang gonna be fighting Ant-Man? Why? But at the same time, I'm so alright with this.
Yeah. I think it'll be pretty cool. Those Ant-Man movies are pretty damn good.
They're
They're
some of
pretty
my
charming.
favorites.
They're pretty charming.
It's
Um,
Paul Rudd.
yeah, exactly, right? Exactly.
He's
It
he's
does
everyone's basic white boyfriend.
it does make me wonder if the Kang's really gonna be the big bad by the time we get to like the Endgame-esque film of this new saga or whatever they're gonna call it in the end. It makes me wonder because he is introduced very, very early in
Well,
comparison to
Kang's
like Thanos. So I wonder. And Kang does have various different forms, and he comes back and time again, right? Because it's literally an infinite amount of him. But I
for
don't
the
know. It'll be
majority
interesting.
of it, for the majority of it, Kang is a very much a villain character, but it's not because he's a mustache twirly
Yeah,
villain. He's
no, for
basically
sure.
like he's trying to bring order to the universe
Yeah,
because that's the only way to keep it safe. But it's again, he's still a bad guy at the end of the day. There's been some stories that I've seen where it's like, oh no, he's just trying to save his, his family. There are other ones where it's like, no, he's straight up coming back to like kill a bunch of people. I think did I mention Iron Lad to you last time or no?
no, but yeah, I'm aware of Iron Lad too. Yeah,
Where it's like he's another Kang variant who's
yeah,
like, I'm gonna go back in time and build a new team of Avengers to stop future me from messing things up.
yep,
Um, so like you've opened up a lot of really cool ideas and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna say that the series was for nothing. It just again, I think you can have a balance between character and character and plot. Like you should. That's exactly what it should be.
yeah. I agree.
Oh, also, I realized this too. Um, because I've been watching Disney movies. I'm sorry. Maybe Star Wars is gonna be the next episode, not this one. By the time we finish talking
We're
about all
still
this
rolling.
stuff,
Like, yeah, this will be a two-parter for sure. Yeah, just solid
that's
two-parter.
fine. It's cool. We can bump Star Wars. It's still gonna be there. But no, like, so I've been watching the Disney movies, like we've discussed before.
Yeah,
Been marathoning those, and I get why Little Mermaid is such a big deal. I reached the Little Mermaid and Rescuers Down Under, and I fully understand why it changed Disney the way it did. Because like, and this all ties together. Don't worry, this
okay,
ties
like
together.
you're like this connects
Um,
people. It connects.
Basically, um, I watched Fox and the Hound. That was delightful. Um, Black Cauldron is a mess, but it's not the movie's fault. It's literally the production behind it is why it failed so badly. Because they chopped up the movie, they edited it after they drew it, which is just not how you edit animation.
Yeah.
Great Mouse Detective is fun. I know a lot of people love it. A lot of people are like, no, it's like one of the best Disney movies out there. It's fun, but it's starting to lose things, and I'd compare it closer to like Fievel Goes West, American Tail, that kind of stuff, as opposed to like being Disney. Oliver and Company was just disappointing. I haven't seen that one in years, and I watched it again. I'm like, oh, this movie is
Not as good as you remember.
it's not, yeah, it's not great. And then I watched Little Mermaid. And like, first off, no one talks about that opening sequence. And like, it's to me, that's kind of where it hit me. Because like the first bit, I'm like, okay, cool. They're on a ship. That's all right. That's, yeah, they're kind of setting up the world. Cool. And then they go under the sea. And then there's suddenly these like, the amazing score kicks in, like the orchestral version of Part of Your World. And like, just some of the paintings and some of the shots of like the sun coming through the ocean and lighting the mermaids as they all swim towards, I assume, Atlantis. It's just amazing. It was magical. It was freaking magical. It was so cool. And I was just like, I was playing Switch while watching, and I'm like, I have to set this down and actually watch this movie
and see what's
now, because,
happening.
like,
Yeah.
because the animation was so good. And then we got to Ursula, and Ursula showed up, and I'm like, that's it. This is it. This is what makes movies great. A hero is only as good as their villain. And Ursula is one of the best Disney villains out there. And when you think about like the Disney villains pre-Renaissance versus post, like during Renaissance and post, all the iconic ones minus Maleficent, Cruella de Vil, and I'm probably forgetting one other or two others. There's no real iconic villains from the old movies minus a couple.
Right.
Oh, the evil queen from Snow White. But then you get to the Renaissance and they're all just amazing. And that's the thing, is like, you need, especially if it's an adventure film, especially if it's like something where your hero is going on this quest, you need that iconic villain.
Yeah, you need strong villains. Yeah.
And that's where like Thanos works, but there's a lot of build up to it. And that's where, again, Marvel films, a lot of times
they don't have the strongest villains
really dependent.
at the end of the day. Most films
Some of them
don't have there's some that are really good, but you're right, like some of those just don't.
Well, like, and that's the thing, who was the villain of Loki? There wasn't really. Even the TVA aren't technically the villains.
Yeah.
Like, and then if you look at WandaVision. Okay, well, Agatha, I guess, but also so is Wanda, but also not Wanda, but also Vision, but also evil military guy.
Yeah, there was a couple of
and
them,
then
sure.
And then you get to Captain America and Winter Soldier, and it's the same thing where you have, oh, well, it's really actually John Walker. He's the villain. Actually, no, he's not that bad of a guy. It's actually Sharon Carter. No, actually, it's the Flag Smashers. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Baron Zemo. Pick a lane.
I think it was consistently the Flag Smashers, but I think the other two had their turns. They like shifted in and out of villainous background second characters kind of thing.
The thing is, it's
I
never.
agree. But the Flag Smashers themselves were not solid villains.
No, they were like, because they were, again, they're misunderstood.
It's not even that they weren't misunderstood. It was just the fact that they weren't even all that interesting. Like that was
the problem.
Thing, yeah.
And that's where at the end of the day, like, it's kind of cool that watching Disney's what made me realize that, because even like the villain for Rescuers Down Under being like that hunter guy, me and Prosper are watching it. And he's like, I think this is the most underrated performance of a Disney villain, and I'm like, because the actor is someone me and him both love, I'm like, is it actually like a great performance, or do we just love this actor? But it's like, it's a fun performance that no one talks about. Yeah. But I mean, how exactly do you translate? Oh, Captain Hook, that's the other iconic villain that I was forgetting about. But like, how do you take a poacher and put it on the same level as like, that'd be like saying Clayton from Tarzan is one of the best villains. Like, he's a good villain, but he's not one of the best. Because a poacher only goes so far, especially against, like, wizards and warlocks and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, I guess kind of to bring it back to Star Wars, that's the strength of what Star Wars has been and was good villains.
Iconic.
And then
villains.
the problem with Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker is that there really wasn't greatly executed villains. It was very confusing and very muddled again. Because again, movies have this thing now where they have to play in the gray areas. No one can be strictly a villain. You have to understand and sympathize that the villain might not actually be all that bad. And it's like, no, they can be bad. It's 100% fine for them to be bad. You had that with Darth Vader. He was a bad guy, and in the end, he did redeem himself, but he was still a bad dude from the minute he walks on to that ship to the end. Like, that's the problem is now, especially because the world likes, like, people liked some stories where it's like, ooh, I kind of like it when the good guy's a bad guy or the bad guy's kind of good. Every story has to be that now, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with motivated villains, just motivated to being evil. That's okay. It's how you execute them. Like, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what their motivation is as long as it's well executed.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that for the most part. I don't mind understanding the villain, like getting that background layer. That doesn't bug me.
Oh, it doesn't bug
Like
me
that,
either.
like
It's just-
that's
it's in
okay. That's
everything
okay.
now.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think all villains are built to be sympath. Yeah, I don't know. The gray is where we live in our real world for the most part, right? Like, but
But that's not what movies are for, though, man.
I know. I get that. I get that. Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on the film and depends what kind of tone and message they're trying to get across. I mean, if you're doing a classic, like, there's a difference between, like, a real in-depth, like, character piece drama where no one's really evil. You know what I mean? And then there's a difference between, like, a Star Wars where it's clearly you have someone trying to murder the galaxy, like, 50% of the galaxy for whatever reason. You have space Nazis to bring it, So,
It's true.
So to be fair, like, there are moments where characters need to be just evil. There still can be depth to them, but to be evil is fine in those situations. But, like, again, if you're talking about, like, something that's a bit more dramatic, or you're really digging into character pieces and making a statement on humanity, if you really want to go that far, then I have no problem. It depends. Again, I guess you're right. It does come down to execution. Depends what you're trying to do with that story.
Do you think that, like ideally you want to have all characters interesting? I understand that. But, like, do you agree with me that you can have really bland characters go up against a really interesting villain and have, like, a strong movie, versus if you had, like, a lot of interesting characters go against a really bland villain, it's going to be more boring?
Yeah. I'd probably agree with you in that. We've
And,
had
like, I feel
we've had movies in the past where the hero is, like, they're cool, but they're not really,
like,
charismatic.
James Bond actually is, like, he's charismatic. Like, so hear me out. I saw your face, your eyes went wide, going like, "What'd you say
That's
about
like
my
James
boy James
Bond.
Bond?"
Okay, I'll listen to you.
James
I had a
Bond,
different person in mind.
James Bond is a very one note character. He is a very stereotypical character. We always know he's gonna win. Like, there's never a James Bond movie that you go into and going like, "I wonder if he's gonna die in this film."
That's true.
No, you know he's gonna win. But his strongest movies are where the villains are actually interesting and engaging and are elevated above him.
Yeah.
Like, or, like, especially for, like, GoldenEye being, like, one of the best ones, like, when it is a parallel of Bond.
Yeah.
When it's like, it is basically Bond fighting.
It's always
Bond.
interesting when you're fighting your dark nemesis. Like, I don't care what it is. It's always interesting to me. Spider-Man and Venom, or you know what I mean? Like, that to me is like an interesting movie.
No, and that's the thing that, like, so James Bond is, to me, a good example of that, where it's like, he has a lot of boring movies. There's a lot of really good movies, but there's a lot of boring movies. And the boring ones are the ones where the villains are kind of
Oh, I will add on top of that one, though. I will also add another character that I was thinking about when I was saying that. I was kind of thinking about, like, Blade in general, like looking at the Wesley Snipes films. Because, like, while the character's super badass, he doesn't say that much. Like, he really doesn't. And when he doesn't, he's like, "Oh, man, motherfucker." Like, he's just going to chop up people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really cool movie. And are the villains really that interesting even in that one? I don't know. Like, if you have really cool concepts and ideas, they can also work too. But again, depends what you're trying to do with a movie, right? Like if you are trying to be a little bit more in depth, you got to have those different layers. But if you're just a vampire killer who's just there to have a cool ass jacket and have a sword and be chopping up people who are going to turn to sparks and crap, it's like, well, dude, that's pretty tempting as it is, you know? So like I thought that was interesting. Another great example too, even what you're talking about, right? We talked about the Dark Knight that long ago, right? Like Batman himself in those films, like how Christian Bale portrays him. It's not like Batman's charismatic, but like the villain really elevates the Dark Knight. Because if Joker
100%.
didn't work, if Heath Ledger's Joker didn't work, that would take away so much from the film. That would take away so much from the film.
Well, and that's where
So
even if you
charismatic
go, like,
villains
movies,
that work really are important.
if you go to Michael Keaton movies too, like the most exciting thing in those ones is like in the first one with Joker when like like Michael Keaton's just Bruce Wayne at Vicky Vale's house and Joker shows up and then Bruce for some reason decides to challenge the Joker to a fight to try and intimidate him.
That didn't go well.
No, I mean it went well enough. He survived. That's the important part.
He didn't die.
But that's what I mean. Like I think at the end of the day, like you gotta have a clear villain or you gotta have some kind of interesting and again, the villain doesn't have to be a person. It just has to be a threat. There has to be some interesting threat, something to keep you engaged. A ticking bomb. Like a bomb under a chair.
An incoming asteroid that's going to destroy the planet. Like those are always interesting things. Like a universal force. Yeah, 100%.
Like again, it's the idea of like something that is actually going to like
cause opposition.
Get your characters
man.
to
grow.
Well, it's getting your characters to even change how they are.
Sure.
Right? And that's where you can have those boring characters or those generic characters and then they have to like change who they are in order to succeed.
Yeah.
Right? Like actually Guardians of the Galaxy is a good example of that where they're like, "Oh, we're going to do these things alone." And then by the end they're like, "No, we have to work together." And they became a family.
See, Guardians of the Galaxy is another great example of them introducing like a new element into the MCU, but grounding it in a very human story, right? Like that's a perfect example of that. Because it's like you don't like and you can. It's easier to accept crazy concepts around you when when you have a human connection in the middle of it, and that's what's really important.
100%.
What else were you saying? I can't remember. I was gonna say something else. Something you were saying.
Guardians.
What were you saying just before that? I forgot.
Batman.
I forgot.
I feel like there was something between Batman and
there
Guardians, and I can't remember what it was.
We're just like we cannot remember.
I mean, like we were talking about different threats that cause your characters to change.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
They don't
oh yes,
they don't
yes,
have to
yes,
be
yes,
people.
yes. I remember. The villain in Black Widow is very uninspiring as well. So you got like an uninspiring main character and an uninspiring villain. That's like, bruh.
Well,
so that's what it
that's
comes down to, yeah.
And that's where it's frustrating. Like it's again, you gotta have some kind of compelling nature to your film, whether it's a character or whether it's a villain. Like, and the thing is, you can be like, well, the plot's compelling, and it's like, yeah, the plot being the compelling part isn't exactly enough, because it can be an interesting plot that you're intrigued by, but when you're finished watching that movie, are you going to go back and rewatch it when you've finished
You're right. It has to deliver on execution. It has to deliver on care. Like there has to be some kind of emotional. Like the movies we love the most are the ones where we get those emotional connections, and we're like, yeah, I'm in. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, Back to the Future. Back to the Future. You have Michael J. Fox, who's like, he's charismatic, he's fun, but honestly, without Biff Tannen, those movies would just be boring. Like, if it was just, like, imagine if it was Marty trying to get his parents together without the imminent threat of, like, this meathead bully. Like, could you imagine just, like, it's like, oh, yeah, you guys should, like, dance together. And then they would, like, there wouldn't have been any, like, real struggle, because Biff wouldn't be getting in the way. And he's what made those movies interesting. Like, the time travel was just kind of there, and it's about time travel, but it's like, that was part of the plot. The time travel was part of the plot, and that was a hurdle they had to get over. But the bigger hurdle was literally the bully. And he was so good. He was played so well. Like, man, like, I love those
It,
movies.
it, it was good.
Back to the
Like,
Future.
Even again, like though you say the universal force of the threat of getting wiped from existence, like that was pretty cool. Like having the picture and
Yep.
seeing those, like everything just fading away, right? Like it was like
Ticking
that
time
ticking
bomb.
time bomb, the bomb under the table. You're just waiting for it to blow. You're
Yep.
trying to get your mission done before that happens. So yeah, no,
And
100%.
The cool thing with that is just when you think, because it's like, oh, we beat Biff, we got past him, you think that it's over, and then suddenly some other bully just shows up and is like, no, I'm gonna cause you to cease to exist. And like, what? Who's this random guy?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the threat isn't over after all.
Like and that's like yeah, and that's the great part. Like you have to have those opposing forces, like because conflict fuels everything in films and in stories, right? Like conflict is what fuels character growth. Because without conflict, there's no reason for your character to grow.
No, exactly, and that's the thing. Like that's just where it just
100%, man.
and that's where a lot of films to me nowadays aren't really landing. Like it's not the same. Like it's not as interesting. There's some really good ones. There are some really good new ones. But especially when you're looking at the main blockbusters, the main ones that everyone goes to see, like it's not that. Like that's not it's just not as interesting. It's just not what it used to be. Movies aren't as good as they used to be. Me.
Yeah, you just sound like an old guy.
I mean, I'm not. I'm 25. We've been over this,
So
man.
yeah, and like yeah, it just depends on what you're watching, right? Like there's definitely more of a corporatization to it, right?
That's a copy
As they
paste
grow,
thing.
and yeah, it's kind of like gaming right now. Like a lot of the AAA games are just becoming real, like not dull, but like so much of the same, and they're going in the same direction. But it's like the indie games is where you find like those experiences that are like, oh yeah, this is the good shit. Like this is the stuff I remember. And it's
No,
kind of
exactly.
I feel like it's probably similar with films and stuff too right now.
Do we want to start wrapping up this episode? Question of the days, and just kind of
I guess I've like, dude,
This has been good, though. This has been
I'm gonna
great.
title this episode of random or random ass episode because it's like, or I'll title it like Star Wars Episode 7, kinda, not really, psych, come back next week. It's gonna be something like that because I'm like, dude,
Hey,
we
man,
got
like,
totally off the
but
rails.
this is the kind of. But honestly, man, this is the kind of stuff that I like. This is the kind of podcast I want to do, where it's like, man, let's just talk about stuff, like, because this has been a good conversation. This has been great.
It has been healthy. Yes.
It's been enjoyable. It's been fun.
It's always good to talk about stories and movies and analyze them and see what makes them tick. And like and too, like all these things we talked about, good villain, conflict, you know, all these things, and even the magic when you talk about the original trilogies. Like we say like, oh, just do this or just do that, but like I know the reality of this thing is it's like those things are super hard to execute at the end of the day. They can look great on
Yeah.
paper, but to execute them with actors and editing and lighting and sound and music and like to actually create a really good movie is freaking hard. Like next thing to impossible. That's why the guys who do it consistently are freaking rock stars. Because it's a hard thing to
Oh,
do.
exactly.
It's tough. It's tough. Most people couldn't pull it together. Most people couldn't. The majority. We like to
No,
criticize
that's
and say this
100%
movie's good or bad, but or it sucks is good, but like I don't know. I've never made a good movie.
I have.
Ethan's never made a good movie. Just kidding.
I have made a great
Hey,
movie.
Quantum of
and
Snowflakes
people
was
can-
legendary, bro. Everybody knows about that.
Hey, Matt, at least people have seen my movie.
People have seen. Listen, at least
Look, the
Quantum of
same 10
Snowflakes.
people who have seen
At
Quantum
least
of
Quantum of
Snowflakes don't
Snowflakes
count.
has repeat viewership
From the same 10 people.
over a decade. That's pretty
Look.
good. I'll take it.
Hey, I've had at least 20 to 50 different people watch my movie and never watch it again. But I've at least had 20 to 50 different people watch
I've
it.
had the same 10 people watch it for 10 years in a row. That's like 100 people, bro. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but mine's not only... mine's more than a half an hour long.
Yeah, but mine was made in high school in a month, so it's pretty good.
Mine was made out of high school in 2 weeks.
Mine was made in high school, so that right there, gold star. Like we're comparing them. Listen,
Matt.
man, Quantum of
Yeah, Matt,
Snowflakes
and
is
you can
hilarious,
tell.
man. Yeah, well, yes,
Oh,
you
it's
can
great.
tell. You can tell. For a high school film, not too bad. And
It's great
I'm
fun.
glad
And again,
that
I
I'm
can't
glad
believe
that
I
our group
forgot.
actually I'm glad that our group enjoys it still. Like that makes me happy. That makes it like worth doing all the work. Cause like me and Green were there. We'd get there like 6 in the morning to work on that damn thing. And we'd be there till like 6:37 at night working on those, like doing all the editing and stuff like that. So like all the work, man, I don't care if 10 people see it. They like it. And that's all that matters. And I don't think it would be that great outside of our own group though, because there's a lot of like insider kind of
Inside
jokes,
jokes.
right? That like we get, but it's like, bro, what is this? I don't know. I'd be
What's
interested to see
going
what
on?
other people think of it. I've tried to like make a digital
Give me
version.
a copy.
Well, I tried to make a digital version, it didn't work, but I'll have to. When you come down next time, we'll have to make you a copy or find you one. Something.
We'll go and just steal it from someone else who has a physical copy.
Yeah, like someone's got to have more than one kicking around.
Exactly.
Hilarious.
So I actually, I guess it's an hour in, but like I'm cool. I have to make a retraction from last week's. I was planning to start out with this, and I feel really bad because I should have started with.
We didn't
this.
start with anything. I'm Matt, by the
Hey,
way.
it's
If
they
you
know
don't
who
know,
we are at this point.
Hey, new people.
It's on the thumbnail, Matt.
Oh yeah. If you don't, what if you don't read?
It's in the
thumbnail?
descriptions. It's in the descriptions. People will know. It's fine.
This is my friend Ethan.
I don't know if I'd call us friends.
This is my personal business acquaintance Ethan. That's even going too
I
far.
don't know if I'd
This
call
is
us
my
personal.
podcast acquaintance Ethan.
This is some stranger who I've never talked with before.
That's what it comes down to.
Anyway, on to my retraction from last week, because I was proven wrong by a friend of mine, and I need to give her a special shout out. So my friend Taya pointed out something to me that I mistakenly said last episode, where I said, hey, there's nowhere online to watch public domain movies, and they should have this archive somewhere. Apparently, it's just called the Internet Movie Archive or something like that. You can just Google that. Just Internet Archive for feature films, and it pops up. There's a whole bunch of items in there, lists of silent films by genres, short films, feature films, all this stuff that apparently I just didn't know about. So I was very much mistaken.
Wrong.
I hope this doesn't come off as sarcastic at all. But like, I'm disappointed that I didn't know this,
I'm disappointed
and
too.
I'm happy that I was corrected. So Taya, if you're listening, thank you so much for pointing this out and bringing this to my
Listen,
attention.
dude, you're the heart and soul of this podcast. I am so disappointed in you, Ethan. I'm just here
I
to
would
be.
be
I'm
too.
here to be like the token black guy. You're the guy who knows everything. I'm just here to bring a little color to the situation.
Bring a different perspective, Matt. You bring a different perspective.
The perspective of color.
Matt, this show is still pretty black and white.
It's literally.
We're very monochromatic
Oh
here.
yeah.
But anyway,
Hilarious.
yes, I needed to correct that. I need to say thank you to Taya for
Thanks,
pointing that
Taya.
out because
Appreciate
again,
it.
yeah. So
We do.
So thanks for your expert movie knowledge, and we'll have to have you on sometime to school us more with your movie knowledge.
Someone's gotta help Ethan out here.
We gotta
Someone's
have
gotta
more
help
guests.
Ethan out here.
We gotta have more guests rather than Prosser. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's true.
Prosser was no help. Yeah. I mean, how many people want to keep listening to him?
Me, I love Prosser.
That's because you haven't lived with him for 10 years.
Well, yeah, probably.
You see, if you were, yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. But yeah, no, again. So yeah, I was wrong. People were right. Taya was right. That's nothing any new for me.
This is a new
Anyway,
experience for me. I've never heard you say you're wrong, so this is something.
That's because
This
I'm never
is
wrong, Matt.
something.
I'm never wrong.
This is something.
I'm always in the right. You should know this.
Is this how
Matt,
you
I've just
and
realized
Prosser
something.
like have conversations too? You're like, I am never wrong, Prosser.
No, it's actually funny because like if me and him have heated arguments, like usually it'll end in me Googling something because I'm a very much a Google person.
Yeah.
And like there have
He's
been
got to
times where
find
we've, like,
out what's
been
going
like,
on.
yeah, and there's times we've gone to bed being like, no, you're wrong. I'm like, you're wrong, and I'm right. And then I Google it and I send him a text at like 2 a.m. being like, yeah, so you were 100% right. It's actually this thing.
Just like a tail in between your legs text. Right? I was wrong.
No, I like at the end of the day, I have no problem
Sorry.
admitting that I'm wrong. I will gladly admit that I'm wrong. It just doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I just
Also,
don't think I've ever heard it. I was like, oh damn.
That's because I've never been wrong with you, Matt.
That's debatable at best, but okay.
We can let the audience decide. So, on a side note, unrelated to anybody, and no one else can see this or know this, but like I have a whiteboard behind me, just like you have one behind you, right? And on my whiteboard, I have something that's I'm pretty sure there's oh no, I used to have something labeled radio,
Yeah.
and I have been looking at your whiteboard, seeing radio, and I'm like, who did that to my writing of radio? Why did they add a little thing in the O? Like, who did that? Thinking that the whiteboard behind you was my whiteboard for the last hour.
Oh my god, man, you are some kind of special today.
I know. I am
Oh, man.
the dumbest smart guy that you know.
You're like, who did that to my radio?
I'm like,
And why is it at
So I
Matt's
don't-
house?
no, I thought that was my camera. I don't know what's going on.
Man, you got a pretty damn good tan. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Oh damn.
So I guess Matt, do you have a question of the day for us at all?
Well, it was gonna be about Star Wars, but now I don't really know.
Oh, we can save that for next one. and then,
Question.
or is it a good lead up to episode?
Not really. It was just
Oh, so it's going to be one that's tied into Force Awakens.
yeah.
Okay, well, let me think here.
Yeah. Damn, man, that's pretty funny. You were. Oh man, I don't even know what's happening. I must be living in some kind of Twilight Zone right now. Damn, Ethan.
Basically.
Damn, son.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I'll keep it with Disney. I don't think we've asked this
Sure.
one. I'll go back to the Disney thing. Who do you think is the best Disney villain?
Ooh, that's a good one. And you mean like classical, in quotation,
I
like,
mean,
or are you talking like
in the
Marvel,
span-
Star Wars? Are you
I'd say keep it with
Like
their,
main
like,
Disney
anim-
stuff.
Like yeah, the main Disney
Okay.
movies. Like who do you think is the best villain?
best villain? I like Scar. He
I knew
I
you were
I was
gonna go.
I'm like,
Scar.
man, I love Scar. He's super intimidating, and I knew you would know that that's what I was going with. So I was trying to think of another one that I really, really like, and I was like, I don't know. If there's another one that I like Gaston. He's kind of funny. He's a comical.
Yes, and he's roughly the size of a
yeah,
barge.
yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
like, it's-
He's pretty comical.
how many barges has he encountered to be like, yes, a barge is roughly the size of a tall human?
size of a barge. I'm trying to sing too loud. I can hear my kids waking up right now, so I'm like, oh, I gotta calm down. I'm gonna get in trouble. But
Roughly the size of a barge.
Jafar. I also like Jafar too. Like I just like
Jafar is great.
like I like that because like even Disney villains, like a lot of the guys are kind of have like that skinny like snaky mousy ratty face kind of going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Scar and Jafar are like very like visually very similar, even though one's a lion. You know what I mean?
No, I see what
But
you mean.
you get like the face design and like the structure of it and whatnot. But yeah, I would say those are like my two. I really like Scar and Jafar. They kind of worked for me. Also Gaston, he was pretty funny. He's a dick, but he was
more
pretty
fair.
funny.
I mean, like that's most of the villains, right?
And I don't even know about funny. He was literally, when I think about it, he was pretty much the worst. He was just a terrible person.
She's going to marry me. I've talked to her 3 times, but she's going to
That
marry me.
is like, he is the poster boy for like harassment for women. Like, men,
She's the
do
one.
not be Gaston. Like, just don't. Just don't. What about you?
Honestly, and I think, like, I feel like this is such a cop-out. But like honestly, I think Yzma is probably my favorite Disney villain.
Who dat? Yzma?
Emperor's New Groove.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that
she's
movie.
she is hilarious. She's motivated. Her motivations are clear. Um, she's sinister and evil. The writing is just really good with her. Like, and again, like I stand by Emperor's New Groove is a perfect movie.
I totally
Like, that's
forgot
a-
about it. I should go back and watch that.
It's so good.
Totally
Like, and
forgot.
anytime I love being like Emperor's New Groove is a perfect movie, and then people were like, "Why?" I'm like, "Tell me something you'd change about Emperor's New Groove," and no one can think of anything. No one's like, "Oh, well, it really drags in the middle act." They're like, "No, it's a perfect movie."
I have to go watch it again. I haven't
Um,
seen it for a long time. Huh. Interesting.
Otherwise, it's between Yzma and Ursula.
I was gonna say Ursula too. Dude, I remember
She's
Ur-
that song, man. Like, man, that her song is so evil
Yeah.
and so sinister, and I love it.
Poor unfortunate souls.
Thanks for reminding me of the name because I
Sold
totally forgot what it was
something.
called.
And that's the only part I know. I like at the end of The Little Mermaid when Ursula busts out of like, like she's like in disguise and then she turns back into Ursula on the ship.
Yeah.
And all the wedding
Yeah.
guests are like, what the hell? I would be like, what the hell is going on? Because like that chick was hot. Now it is like a half octopus. What is going on? That would be honestly terrifying. And then like take someone and jumps off the ship. I'd be like, that's it, man. I'm staying on dry land. Like to hell with ships.
Well, I guess I'm moving inland and getting off the
Yeah,
coast.
exactly. I'd be like, oh, get the hell out of here. Don't have to tell me twice.
No, like, and that's the thing is like there's a lot of really good Disney villains, but like I don't know, something about those two I think are like just the strongest in my opinion.
That's cool, man.
And Yzma doesn't even have a song. So like the fact that she's that good of a villain with no song, it's pretty good.
I haven't watched.
Which is
I haven't
weird,
watched.
'cause Eartha-
I haven't watched Hercules for a long time, but I feel like Hades was pretty good
Hades
too,
is
wasn't he?
He's fun, but he's one note. He's James Woods. Like,
He's just James Wood
That's
as a
basically
villain,
That's his shtick.
Yeah. I'm just James Wood.
But like, so Eartha Kitt was like actually like a famed singer, and she's the one who voices Yzma.
Mm-hmm.
Like she had a career as a singer, but she didn't have a song in Emperor's New Groove.
That seems like a missed
But
opportunity.
like not really anyone had songs in Emperor's New Groove. Like,
That's
they
true.
They had music in it, but it was around that weird time where like Atlantis, even Tarzan, technically it had songs, but
Ooh,
no one
I
in
love
the movie.
Tarzan.
Oh, Tarzan's really good, but like aside from the beginning of "You'll Be in My Heart," no characters sing in that movie. It's all just Phil Collins.
No, they do the little the campfire one.
Oh,
Trash in the camp.
Trash in the camp. Does that count? Yeah, I guess that And then they, for some reason, brought in NSYNC because they were popular in 2000.
Yeah. Phil Collins rocked that soundtrack though. Come on, man.
All the drums.
Just money that whole time. Money.
Oh, so good. So Matt, quickly, where can the good people find you?
You can find me over on Twitter at GK Radio Man. You can go check out my podcast, Gaming Night Radio. That's night with the K, because Warriors and stuff, probably. Actually, it's because we celebrate the good things in games, but we also call out the worst things. And this new episode that's going to be out already by this time, we're talking about the terrible things that have been happening in gaming. It's actually a pretty serious conversation, but basically about like harassment in the gaming industry and the effect on that and the things we can do to kind of, stand against that stuff. Because some pretty like scathing reports have come out in the last couple days. So that's tomorrow. I get to talk about that on that podcast. But yeah, come by, check it out. Usually we're very lighthearted, just enjoying gaming,
this
man.
time.
But no, this time we gotta get serious and talk about real things that actually affect people's lives. So that's always very important. So yeah, you can find that at any podcast app or head over to the website, gamingnightradio.com. They're all there as well.
Cool.
What about you, buddy?
You can find me on Instagram at Ethan R. Hill. You can also find me on YouTube at Ethan R. Hill. And you can find mine and Prosper's movie Damned Rights at realhouse.org. You can rent it, you can buy it, you can stream it, you can download it. Go give us some support. Go watch a good movie with a compelling
You can be
villain.
one of the 50 people who have watched it.
A
And
compelling
not the
villain with a
hundreds of
question
the
mark?
same people who have
Who've
watched
watched-
mine.
You mean like the tens of the same people who watched it tens of times?
No, the tens of the hundreds. Yeah, the hundreds of tens of people who have watched it.
Yeah. So I guess
It's an
that's
exclusive club, man. It's exclusive. That's
It's
what it
true.
is. It's very exclusive.
and
Yeah.
I'm a part of that, which is kind of nifty.
It is nifty. You're also in the movie, which is also nifty.
A lot more than I thought I was. I thought I was in like 2 scenes, and no, I'm there for like I'd say 50%,
You
which
showed
is
for a good chunk of it, yeah.
which is weird for a Q. That's really weird for Q to be in 50% of a movie.
Yeah.
You don't really.
Well, there's a
one
reason
scene.
for that.
And we'll find that out in the sequel.
It's gonna be animated.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'd be fine doing an animated sequel.
Then I could give myself abs. I don't actually have to do it. That would be ideal.
There's a whole new there's a whole range of jokes that we could tap into just by making it animated.
Yeah.
Oh
you're
man,
right.
you haven't aged a day.
Thanks.
Oh man, these characters, man, you seem like a pretty 2-dimensional villain. Looks at his hands.
Oh God.
There's so
Not the
many.
puns. Not
So many puns.
the puns.
Just accept it, Matt. Just accept it.
All right, that's it for this episode of
Oh.
Feast of Films.
As Matt was saying, that is a wrap on this episode of Feast of Films. I guess we'll get to Star Wars next week, but
That
said-
we started out strong, and then we're like, never mind.
man, again, I had a blast. I had so much fun this time. I think it's great. We will talk about Star Wars Force Awakens next week. I, as always, am Ethan R. Hill, and with me, as always, is it's Matthew Ayalew. He forgot his
Matt
name.
Ayalew. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy.
All
I
right.
know him. He's a friend of mine. I know him pretty well.
I blocked him on Facebook because I didn't want to see him anymore.
That's actually probably a good call. He posts some really weird shit.
Yeah, it's like, hey guys, look at I'm
It's
doing
like-
things that are creative and stuff.
Hey, look, I have a family and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, look at my kids, and it's like, oh, shut up, you're accomplished. Woo, good job. Oh.
In one area of your life. Great work.
Oh, you produced 2 kids. Oh, it's more than I've produced. Thanks a lot, man.
And 2 podcasts. How about that? That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, so you have as many podcasts as you do children.
Yeah, I do. And I love them just as well, maybe
You
not as
should
much
love
as
your
I do.
you should love your children more than your podcast, Matt. I'm
I
not
do.
gonna lie.
I do. I do. I do.
I mean, again, I can't speak. I don't have kids, so I can't really like relate. Maybe one day I'll feel that way.
Well, this is an episode of Feast of Film before.
All right, everyone, we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you for listening again.
We already did it.
No, that's what I'm doing. I'm just saying
Wrap it up
goodbye.
again. Oh, okay.
I'm
See you
just
guys.
saying goodbye. Thanks for
Bye.
listening. Have a good week,
Bye.
everybody.
Goodbye now.
So
Goodbye.
long.
Toodaloo. Goodbye now. Goodbye.
Bye.
Whew.